Picture this: you are one of the best players on the planet. Premier League records with your name on them. Champions League nights that people will describe to their grandchildren. A fan base that stretches from Liverpool to Cairo to Lagos to Jakarta. And your World Cup record is to goals from one tournament. While Messi was lifting trophies and Ronaldo was scoring hat-tricks and Mbappe was announcing himself to the world, Mohamed Salah, one of the finest attackers of his generation, has barely been on the stage at all. This is not a story of failure. It is a story of circumstance, bad timing, and a dream that keeps arriving just out of reach, and it isn't finished yet. The wait before 2018 to understand what 2018 meant. You have to understand what came before it. Egypt had not qualified for a World Cup since 1990, 28 years, nearly 3 decades of watching from the outside while the rest of the world played. For Egyptian football fans, the World Cup was something that happened to other countries, something you watched neutrally, with no skin in the game, no flag to wave, no player to follow into the tournament. And then, in 2017, they qualified. Salah was the driving force. He scored the crucial goal in qualification, a late penalty against Congo that sent Egypt to Russia, and the scenes that followed were unlike anything the country had seen in a generation. Players in tears, fans flooding the streets. A nation that had been waiting 28 years finally had something to celebrate. And at the center of it all was their number 10, their king, the boy from Nagreg who had become a global superstar. Egypt were going to the World Cup, and Mohamed Salah was taking them there then. 5 weeks before the tournament, everything changed. Russia 2018 May 26, 2018 Kiev, the Champions League final. Liverpool versus Real Madrid. In the 30th minute, Salah went down in a challenge with Sergio Ramos. His shoulder took the impact. He tried to continue. He couldn't. He left the pitch in tears, arm in a sling, and the entire Egyptian nation held its breath. The diagnosis was a torn ligament in his shoulder. The World Cup was 4 weeks away. The question wasn't whether he'd be at his best. The question was whether he'd be there at all. He made it. Just about. Egypt's opening match against Uruguay, Salah watched from the stands, still not fit enough to play. Egypt lost 1-0 to a late goal. He returned for the second match against host nation Russia, and in the 73rd minute, he stepped up to take a penalty and scored, becoming Egypt's first World Cup goalscorer in 28 years. The third match against Saudi Arabia was his best, running at the defense, receiving the ball on the edge of the area. He lifted it calmly, almost casually, over the advancing goalkeeper in an arc that seemed to hang in the air for a moment before dropping into the net. It was the kind of goal that makes you stop and just watch the replay. Egypt still lost all 3 matches. They were eliminated without a point. The tournament was over almost before it started, but Salah had scored twice and delivered to moments that reminded everyone, even in defeat, even carrying a shoulder injury, even in a team that couldn't keep the ball, this man was genuinely special. The playoff that broke Egypt 2020 to qualification. March 22. Egypt versus Senegal. Home and away playoff. Winner goes to the World Cup. Senegal had Sadio Mane. Egypt had Salah, 2 of Liverpool's most important players, going head-to-head for a World Cup spot. The 2 legs finished level. It went to penalties. Salah stepped up. He missed. Senegal won the shootout. They went to Qatar. Egypt stayed home. In the footage from that night, you can see Salah standing in the center circle afterward, hands on his hips, staring at the ground. Around him, Egyptian fans who had made the journey were devastated. Some were crying. He had carried Egypt to 1 World Cup. He had been central to their attempt to reach a second, and a single penalty, 1 kick, had been the difference between the World Cup and watching it on television. It is one of the most painful what-ifs in recent international football. Looking ahead to 6, the 2026 World Cup expands to 48 teams. Africa gets 9 guaranteed spots instead of 5. The path for Egypt, for Salah, gets meaningfully wider. He will be 34 when the tournament kicks off, still playing at the highest level, still scoring, still one of the most dangerous attackers in world football. But the window is narrowing. The margins are getting smaller. If Egypt qualify and the expanded format gives them a genuine chance, 2026 could be the moment the story gets the chapter it deserves. Salah on the world stage, fit, healthy, with a squad behind him and a full tournament ahead of him. That has never quite happened before. Note in 1990, when Egypt were there but Salah was barely born. Not in 2018, when he arrived carrying a torn ligament and a nation's worth of pressure. Not in 2022, when a penalty in a playoff kept him home. Entirely, 2026 is the first time all the conditions could actually align. Here is the honest truth about Mohamed Salah's World Cup story. It is criminally short for a player of his quality to go goals, 1 tournament, 1 painful near miss. That's not a record that reflects what he is. It reflects what the circumstances allowed Diane. That's what makes it fascinating rather than simply sad, because Salah hasn't been let down by his talent. He hasn't been found wanting on the big stage. He arrived injured, played anyway, and still scored twice. He missed a playoff penalty, 1 moment, 1 kick, and watched the World Cup without him. The game has been unkind to him in ways that have nothing to do with his ability, which is why 2026 matters so much, not because Salah needs a World Cup to validate his legacy. That legacy is already secure, already extraordinary, already written in the record books across multiple continents, but because he deserves a proper go. A full tournament fit, ready, with Africa's expanded allocation giving Egypt a genuine path, 1 last shot at the dream. Egypt's king deserves to play in the palace. If you want the full picture on football's greatest untold stories, subscribe. More coming.